it came to a point where people are cracking jokes now on whether the older two twins are adopted because neither of their weddings was this lavish. I guess every family has its favorites and it's usually the youngest. Am I right? Welcome to the Sum of Everything podcast, where we discuss a little bit of a lot of topics, ranging from spirituality to finance and everything in between. I'm your host Aishwarya, a serial hobbyist with an unquenchable thirst for learning, especially through new experiences. In this podcast, we will scratch every itch of curiosity, explore various perspectives, step out of our comfort zone, and experience some of everything. Because after all, we are just that, a sum of all our experiences. So, let's dive right in. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sum of Everything podcast. For those listening the week that this episode comes out, this past weekend has seen a lot of action in the country. Whether you actually were a part of the celebrations or not, most of my listeners probably weren't. We all knew exactly what was going on in Mumbai in the Ambani household, and we were treated to, quote unquote, treated to the biggest and the fattest Indian wedding ever, possibly to exist since the beginning of this ancient nation. So I thought it would be fun to jump onto that brigade and give my two bit about it and maybe discuss it a little bit. The only question is, what hasn't been said about this wedding? It is possibly the most discussed topic in the last 6 months, ever since the Jamnagar pre-wedding celebrations. And then there was, of course, the cruise, which was the pre-wedding celebrations. And then there were the innumerable number of the actual pre-wedding functions, the haldi and the mehendi and the sangeet and etc. etc. And then there was the actual wedding. And then there were 2 post-wedding ceremonies, apparently, because it came as a shock to me that there were day 1 and day 2 and day 3 of the wedding. And apparently this is not the end of it. A little birdie tells me that there's going to be some celebrations in London. I don't know how true that is, but the rumor mills are rife. So yes, it is a little difficult to think about what actually you can add to this entire shebang and this non-stop content that we've had over the last 6 months of this incredibly grand and ostentatious razzmatazzical event. I think I'm making up words at this point. But if India wasn't on the map before, this wedding definitely put it there. Now everybody knows who Ambani is, not least because of some of the most prestigious and eye-catching international celebrities and public figures that were guests at this wedding. For instance, you had Rihanna perform, and I think God knows how many years of retirement she came out of to perform at the pre-wedding at Jamnagar. The airport, by the way, the Jamnagar tiny airport was converted into an international airport for those 3 days. Can you imagine? Then there was the cruise where Backstreet Boys and I think Katy Perry performed. Damn. Then, of course, there was Justin Bieber at the Sangeet, famously, who came in the most underwhelming performance outfit. And not to mention Rema, who is, by the way, the singer of Baby Calm Down, if you didn't know who that is. Then there was, and that's just the international celebrities. We're not even talking about the Indian celebrities because, ghar ki murgi dal barabar types. Anywhere else, it would have made news that the 3 Khans shared a stage and were performing. But here, no, Rihanna totally overshadowed the lot. And that's just the performers. The guest list was mad. I mean, for starters, you had the Prime Minister of the country himself go and bless the couple. And then there was, of course, Mamata Banerjee, who was also invited, the owner of Samsung, who is at this point royalty in South Korea, was also there. And then there was John Cena, but of course nobody could see him. Hashtag if you know, you know. I think nearly the entire film industry was there. I know there was Bollywood in large attendance, but also some very big names from the South Indian film industries. To say that this was a star-studded event would be a gross understatement. And this is speaking non-ironically, because we're not even going to approach the topic of the jewels that bedazzled this event. I think people thousands of miles away could have been blinded. Maybe aliens did get blinded. Who knows? But of course, arguably the most talked about celebrities who attended this do were none other than Kim and Khloe Kardashian themselves. And people, if you don't know who they are, you aren't keeping up with the Kardashians. Of all the guests who attended the biggest, fattest Indian wedding ever, these two made the most hype, unquestionably. Not least because of who they are, but also the clothes that they wore and the fact that they came with their entire team to shoot their own show, of which I think the next season is going to feature at least a small portion of their travels in India. So that's something to look forward to for those who keep up with them. But you can't deny that in the last 6 months, there has been a content overload in every social media platform about this wedding. I mean, every time I opened Instagram, all I saw was Ambani wedding this and Ambani wedding that. And these are the outfits that were worn. These were the celebrities in attendance. These were the jewels that were displayed, the artists that performed, etc., etc. I mean, it came to a point where people are cracking jokes now on whether the older two twins are adopted because neither of their weddings was this lavish. I guess every family has its favorites and it's usually the youngest. Am I right? But all jokes apart, the scale of this wedding seems to be a very deliberate move by the family for a lot of PR, a lot of investment decisions, and the markets are abuzz with rumors that there's going to be some really big news that's going to hit the stands soon. At this point, everyone who's actually been following this saga is fairly well aware that Rihanna came out of her retirement to perform because she wants to promote her makeup line, Fenty, in India. And with the Ambanis being stakeholders in Sephora India, it's a really good platform to boost her sales in the country. And the buzz is also that all that PR with everybody who is anybody being invited to at least one event was largely because of the merger with Disney Plus that's going to be announced in the OTT space. So huge news in the entertainment and media industry. And even in the telecom sector, today there was news about Akash Ambani and the heads of Bharti Airtel as well as VI meeting with the regulatory authorities for telecom. So one can fairly guess that there's going to be some news in the telecom sector coming forth as well. Essentially, what has happened is Ambani has grabbed eyeballs across the world with the wedding being at the scale that it was. And now, with announcements coming forth, one can expect an influence on the markets and the share prices of Reliance. And I am no expert, not by a long shot, but even I can tell with my minimal knowledge of how the markets work, even I can tell that this was a brilliant investment decision. He has not thrown the money away. He has invested it for his future businesses. And it is an insane move because what it has done is it has made even the most ignorant person sitting in some random corner of the world sit up and take notice of who Ambani is and what Reliance is. Not for nothing is he known as one of the most shrewd businessmen, not just in the country, but also in the world. But That aside, I didn't really start this episode to talk about how amazing Ambani's investment decisions are. What I wanted to know, really, and what I've been thinking about all this time is just how did these people manage to throw an event on this scale, this extravaganza, this multi layered extravaganza, with not one, not two pre wedding celebrations, but so many different functions and the outfits, and not one outfit per event, but multiple outfits per event. And it's not just for the family throwing the wedding, but even the guests changed their outfits. Like, it was insane. And not just that, the Ambanis had much more. For those who don't know, they organized a mass wedding for the underprivileged. The Jamnagar event also had an entire day for which the employees of the Jamnagar branch of Reliance offices were invited, and they were given a celebration for the wedding. And not just that, every single employee of every Reliance Group company, at least in India, has received a gift box consisting of Haldiram sweets, including yours truly, by the way. I got my box today, and it was quite a task carrying it back from office home. So yes, my question is, how in the world did a team manage to put together all of these different events that spanned 6 months and have had events happening across the globe in various countries, not just cities, when I am having trouble putting together a small family function that's going to have at the most 120, 130 people, and I am losing my mind over one small thing? I would really like to talk to the organizing head of the wedding to beat all weddings and maybe just sit and get some tips, because that would be really helpful. And by the way, if you have any tips on how to organize a 2-day event that is going to be largely a small scale event, please let me know. And with that, I will sign off because I have tons on my to-do list, from shopping and calling vendors and keeping track of guest lists and RSVPs. So I'm going to head out and do my thing. And I hope you like this episode. And if you do, tune in for the next one next week. Until then, maybe you could scour the internet and go down the wedding wormhole to see if you missed any of the littlest details. And I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.